Finally, he broke the silence. Tomorrow, it's over. The judge will rule in your favor. You'll be a millionaire overnight. You can buy a house anywhere you want. Gangnam, Seoul Tower View, Jeju Island Villa. Anywhere. YN blinked, processing, then tilted her head. Huh. Tae smirked faintly. What's with that face? You wanted freedom, didn't you? You'll move out from here. Live your own life. No more chains. She lowered her gaze, her fingers twisted in her lap. Something inside her chest felt heavy, leaving. After weeks in this mansion, after finding a strange sense of safety under his shadow, she'd have to face the world alone. It nodded quickly, nervous. I mean, your house is so big, one room won't matter. I'll pay, I promise. I can cook, or clean, or... Her voice trailed, cheeks flushed. It just feels safer here. For a long moment, Tae just stared, rent. She thought she had to buy her place in his life. The Mafia King, feared across nations, was shocked. His chest tightened strangely. He covered it with a scoff. I'll think about it. In bit her lip, disappointment flickering across her face. She nodded, pulling her knees closer, whispering so softly he barely caught it. Facing the world alone is scary. Something flickered in his heart and wanted, dangerous. He stood abruptly, grabbing his glass, turning his back so she wouldn't see the storm in his eyes. Go to sleep. Why on big day tomorrow? She obeyed, walking out quietly, her small figure swallowed by the grand hallway. Tae stayed behind, staring into the untouched whiskey, his mind burning with her words. Rent, safer here. Facing the world alone is scary. For the first time in years, KIMTAEHYUNG wasn't thinking about blood, revenge, or money. He was thinking about her. The gavel struck. This court has reviewed all evidence, testimonies, and records over the past days. Today, we pass judgment. Every head turned, waiting. The judge's voice was calm, but heavy with weight. The will of the late Lee Min-soo is clear. His assets, company shares, and properties belong solely to his daughter, Lee Wai, and evidence presented confirms that these assets were fraudulently controlled and exploited by the Lee family. Furthermore, testimonies and recordings confirm years of mistreatment, effectively stripping the rightful heir of her dignity and rights. Gasps! Reporters typed furiously. The Lee's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor. This is outrageous. Silence. The judge snapped, slamming the gavel. The judge continued, his gaze icy. The court hereby rules in favor of Lee Wai and effective immediately. All holdings, estates, and financial accounts under Lee Min-soo's name are to be transferred back to his rightful heir. The fraudulent parties are to be investigated for embezzlement, perjury, and abuse. The room erupted like thunder. Flashes blinded the air. Voices rose in shock and awe. The Lees, once so arrogant, stood frozen, their faces twisted with horror. The uncles cursed under their breath. The aunts began to cry. The cousins, pale and shaking, clung to one another. Hyun-sik, the eldest uncle, slammed his fists on the table. This is a setup. She's nothing but a. To bailiffs grabbed him by the arms before. To bailiffs grabbed him by the arms before he could finish. The crowd booed. The image of the once mighty Lee family dragged out of the courtroom, faces humiliated, was splashed across every reporter's camera. YN sat frozen, her ears ringing. She won. She really won. The judge's voice broke through. Lee Wai, then, you are the rightful heir. May you honor your father's legacy better than those who sought to erase it. The gavel fell one last time. Court dismissed. As the crowd roared and chaos filled the room, YN stood shakily. She wasn't sure if her legs would hold. Her world had flipped in one moment from a maid in rags to an heiress of millions. Tae's shadow fell beside her. His deep voice brushed her ear. It's over. You won. She turned to look at him, tears streaming down her face. But for once, they weren't of pain. They were of relief, of freedom. She whispered, trembling, Apa, Ama. I did it. And Taehyung, the merciless mafia king, felt something twist in his chest so sharp, he almost forgot to breathe. As soon as YN stepped out of the courthouse, the world exploded. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters screamed her name, Lee YN. How do you feel after winning? Do you plan to run the company yourself? Do you forgive your family? Microphones were shoved in her face, strangers grabbing at her arms. The deafening noise swallowing her whole, her chest tightened, breath short. And then an arm, strong, firm, unyielding. Tease, he pulled her against him, shielding her small frame with his broad shoulders. His glare cut across the reporters like a blade. Move. The crowd froze. No one dared block KIMTAEHYUNG. His aura was suffocating, his voice a growl that carried more power than any judge's gavel. Jungkook and the men spread out, forming a human wall around YN as they pushed her through the chaos. Reporters tried, but every camera dropped lower under Tae's cold, dangerous stare. Inside the car, the doors shut with a slam, cutting off the storm outside. Silence. YN's hands shook in her lap, her chest rising and falling fast. Tae glanced at her. Her wide eyes, the tremble in her lips, the way she clutched her mother's chin under her dress. He had seen fearless men in the mafia cry less than this girl. You're safe now, he said quietly, voice softer than he intended. But his words stabbed her heart. Safe now. What about tomorrow, next week? When he tells her to leave this mansion, when she has to face the world alone with nothing but papers and money. Her throat burned, she forced a smile, but her voice betrayed her. To each, thank you for standing with me. Tae leaned back, loosening his tie, eyes unreadable. You don't need me anymore. YN, you're rich, powerful. You can buy whatever protection you want. Her heart twisted painfully. He didn't see it, the truth she couldn't say aloud. That it wasn't money or power or a mansion she wanted. It was him, his presence, his protection. The way he made her feel safe, not with walls or guns, but by simply standing beside her. She bit her lips so hard it almost bled, holding back the words that screamed in her chest. Please, don't send me away. Please let me stay where you are. Please keep standing with me. But she said nothing. She only turned her face to the window, watching the city blur by, her reflection in the glass hiding the tears in her eyes. And Tae stared at her in silence, jaw tight, fighting something inside him he couldn't name. Because for the first time in years, KIMTAEHYUNG, the merciless mafia king, didn't know what to do with the ache in his chest. The house was buzzing with victory. Servants whispered about the Lee's downfall. Jungkook and the boys were celebrating quietly downstairs. But YN? She slipped away, her steps soft, almost ghost-like, up the wide marble staircase until she reached her room. She stepped inside, closed the door, then twisted the lock. Click! Her back pressed against the wood, and she slid down until she was sitting on the floor. Her chest hurt, not from fear, not anymore. The danger was over. The Lees were finished. She should have felt free. But her heart only grew heavier. She hugged her knees, burying her face. The tears she held back in the car finally spilled, staining the fabric of her new dress. It wasn't wealth she wanted. It wasn't freedom. It wasn't the victory the world was screaming about. It was him. Those cold eyes, everyone feared them. The world saw only cruelty, a mask sharper than steel, but she had seen beyond it. She had seen the flicker of warmth, the silent protection, the man who reached out to shield her in the storm, and it tore her apart. Because tomorrow he could stand outside this very door and tell her to leave. To get out, to live her life far away from his shadow. Her fingers dug into her dress. I don't want to go. She wanted those cold eyes near her, watching her like they always did, distant yet burning with emotions no one else could read. She wanted the man behind the minister, the one hidden deep inside, the one the world didn't deserve to see. But how could she say it? How could she admit she wasn't strong enough to face the world alone? That her heart wasn't just scared, it was already his, so she hid. Behind a locked door, behind her silence, and outside, somewhere down the hall, Kim Taehyung paused mid-step, his hand tightening around a glass of water. He couldn't hear her tears, but something in his chest twisted painfully. The walls between them were thick, the door firmly locked. Yet he felt her distress, felt it as if it were his own. The steady smell of old leather and smoke. The city lights painted faint lines across the glass wall. Taehyung stood with his back to the skyline, a glass of whiskey half forgotten in his hand. He hadn't expected anyone to disturb him tonight. A soft knock, then the door opened. In stepped in, small and brave in the dim light. Her dress whispered as she moved. She closed the door behind her with a click that sounded too loud in the hush of the room. He didn't turn at once. After a breath, he asked slowly, without looking at her, the amusement thin in his voice. So, when are you leaving? Her knees trembled. For a heartbeat, she almost fled. Instead, she folded her hands, looked up at the cold man by the glass, and said, voice tiny but steady, I want to talk. Taehyung turned then, placing the glass on the table. He watched her. The corner of his mouth lifted, curious. Say, you told me my family owed you, she began, fidgeting with the ring at her finger. You said they stole from you, that it's yours by right. His brows rose. They owed me nothing that matters to you. She swallowed, then pushed onward. No, they owed you. They cheated you. So she inhaled like she was plunging into cold water. Is it more than I have? Her eyes flicked to the small envelope in her bad memory of Jiho's money, but she was thinking bigger, stupidly literal and heartbreakingly naive. Taehyung gave a short, incredulous laugh. Why are you asking me about sums? Because, she whispered, surprising herself with the boldness of what she was about to say. Because if what they owe you is more than I have, then I have an idea. He leaned forward, the glass forgotten. And that is, his tone invited ridicule. She straightened, voice trembling but clear. Marry me. And have all of it. For a beat the world didn't exist for Taehyung. The confession hit like lightning. She was offering him marriage as a bargain. The absurd, innocent, desperate trait of a girl who'd lived as a shadow all her life. He was speechless. Then he laughed. It started low, then rose until it had an edge like breaking glass. It wasn't entirely mockery. There was a raw, incredulous heat under it. You expect me to take a bride because she's worried about rent? He shook his head. You're proposing a bargain. You're bribing me with a marriage contract. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, not from embarrassment only, but from the raw exposure of everything she'd tried to hide. It's not like that. I'm scared. If I leave, I have to face the world alone. I thought if I were yours, I wouldn't be alone. I'd be protected. I'd belong somewhere. Something like pity and something like fury warred behind his eyes. He stepped closer until the distance between them felt charged. He could see every tremor in her hands, the way she waited for him to laugh and send her away. You think marriage is a shelter. His voice was calm and cold now. You think signing a document will make them gentle, that a ring will fix the world? She swallowed, voice small. I thought, maybe I don't know anything. I only know I don't want to go. I don't want to be alone. Taehyung's jaw worked. He should have shut it down, sent her away, reminded her that she was not an asset he could own. He should have been insulted that she would try to buy him with herself. Instead, weird and dangerous and impossible, he felt something that nearly sounded like a decision form in his chest. He moved back, turning his face up to the lights, as if the city could help him with the answer. When he spoke again, it was slow, precise, an edge of steel tempered with something softer, for the first time in a long while. "Marry you," he let the words hang between them like a blade. "You offer yourself as a bargain to stay." That's either the most honest thing I've ever heard or the most foolish. YN's breath caught. So he watched her, eyes dark and unreadable. "I will not be bought." The line snapped, hard and immediate. "Nor will I buy you." She flinched as if struck. "Marry you," he let the words hang between them like a blade. "You offer yourself as a bargain to stay." That's either the most honest thing I've ever heard or the most foolish. YN's breath caught. So he watched her, eyes dark and unreadable. "I will not be bought." The line snapped, hard and immediate. "Nor will I buy you." She flinched as if struck. But he continued, lower now, and the room leaned in with him. "You are not going out into the world unprotected." "Not while I can prevent it." His lips curled in a motion that might have been a smile. "If you truly wish to be by my side without bargains masked as vows, then say it differently. Tell me you want to be with me, not because of what I can take for you, but because you want me." Her cheeks flushed, confusion and hope mixing. "But if not for the money, then," he cut in, voice sharper, "then you will stay under my protection. You will not be sent away. You will not barter yourself for safety." He reached into the nearest drawer, took a pen and a blank sheet of paper, and set them on the desk in front of her like a challenge. "You insisted on logic. Fine." He paused, measuring her. "If you want a guarantee that the lease cannot touch you, that banks cannot freeze your claim, and that no coward will threaten you with basements, marriage is one method. Public, binding, messy but effective. However," he tapped the pen, "it won't be a ransom sale. It will be an agreement under my terms. You will not sign because you fear. You will sign because you choose to keep what you own." In looked at the paper, then at him, heart pounding so loud she thought he must hear it. I don't know how to choose," she admitted. "I only know I'm afraid to be alone." For a flash of sliver, Taehyung's expression softened. The wall that protected him cracked. He pushed the pen toward her. "Decide," he said quietly. "Decide if you want a shield or a sentence. If you stand with me, you will stand openly. I will not hide you anymore, but I will not accept cheap bargains. If you sign with eyes open." She swallowed, trembling, and took the pen. Outside, the city kept its indifferent pulse. Inside, a throne of glass and smoke had just become a crossroads for two people who'd been surviving different kinds of cages. The idea had been YN's a reckless, childlike, and brilliant, and it had forced Taehyung to choose not only strategy, but something he was not prepared to name. He watched her right jaw clenched, and the study seemed to hold its breath. The study smelled of paper and cold smoke. The city lights bled through the glass, painting them both in a hard, blue glow. In's pen hovered over the blank sheet, eyes bright and foolish and deadly honest. "I want a lifetime contract," she said quietly. Tae actually chuckled, half amused, half disbelieving. "Now you want a real marriage, yes?" Her voice was small but steady. "I don't care about millions or billions. You can have all that. I just want you by my side. I want to hold you. I want." Her words stumbled into an honest, childlike plea to share feelings, to have someone who stays. Something like a shudder ran across Taehyung's face. He licked his lips, fury fighting a tenderness he hadn't named. "You're asking for my life," he said low, incredulous. In looked at him with that unguarded innocence that had unmoored him from the start. "Yes," he cursed under his breath, because his heart traitorously felt like it had run a marathon. He squared his shoulders, because this wasn't a joke. This was a person asking for permanence, and that required more than iron and paper. "I have conditions," he said at last, voice rough. Her eyes widened. What? Tae folded his hands on the desk, speaking like a man making an offer to an army rather than proposing to someone's trembling heart. You will stand by my side, not as a scared little pony to hide behind curtains, but as a warrior. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Learn to speak so people don't eat you alive. You will not flinch every time someone raises their voice. You will not run. You will look at the world and say, I belong here. I want a strong mother for my kids. In's mouth formed a soft, shocked though. Her cheeks flushed. The word warrior felt enormous in her small chest. You have kids, she blurted, naive and wide-eyed. Tae snorted, the sound half laugh, half gruff. No, he watched her fumble with the idea like a picture from a future she couldn't imagine. Then something dangerously warm crossed his face. But after marrying you, I will have many. YN's blush deepened until it matched the color of the city's night lights. She clapped a hand over her mouth, whispering, Taehyung, except she wasn't sure that's what she meant to call him. Tae let out a sound that might have been a laugh or the first crack in his armor. He leaned forward, eyes sharp and absurdly soft at the same time. You will train. With my people etiquette, legal basics, self-defense if you must. You will not be a showpiece. You will be a partner who can hold a room. No one will ever call you a servant again, not in front of me, and not when I'm not there. He paused, letting the weight of it settle. Then he added, harsher, you will not be compelled to play a part you hate. If you ever feel trapped or used, he looked at her, dangerous and sincere, you will tell me. I will not allow you to be sold, bartered, or broken. YN's tears sprung relief and fear braided together. I don't want to be broken, she whispered. I just want to stay. She picked up the pen, hands trembling but steadier now. Before she wrote, Tae reached into his pocket and took out a ring, simple, heavy, black metal that looked like it had been forged for someone who didn't do sentiment lightly. He held it out. If this is what you want, not to buy safety with your life, but to choose it, then wear this first. Consider it a promise that I am not a monster who discards what he claims. In looked at the ring, then at him. She thought of basements and rats, of burnt hands cleaning plates, of the $62 folded like a prayer. She thought of his hand over hers at the courthouse, his silence that had felt like iron and shelter at once. She slid the ring onto her finger. It was cold and real. Her breath hitched. I choose, she said, voice raw and gentle. I choose you. Tae's mouth tightened, something like gratitude and something like fear crossed his face. He did not smile. He did not speak a vow. He simply nodded once, the smallest, fiercest yes he could give. Outside, the city kept its indifferent pulse. Inside the glass room, 2 people had just agreed to an impossible thing, to try to bind lives that had been broken into one another, on terms that would be both protection and challenge. They would let the lawyer write the pages. They would make the marriage legal the right way, with public announcement, scrutiny, and no loopholes. But the first, private promise had already been made, a ring, a pen, and the fragile, glorious choice.